How's it going, everybody? I'm the BTC Reaper. My goal on this channel is to teach you how to reap the rewards of trading while the price is going up or down. Celsius Exec pleads guilty and agrees to cooperate in case against CEO. Ryan Cohen-Paven, a former executive at Celsius Network, has pled guilty to 4 criminal charges per court document shared by Intercity Press. He faces a combined maximum term of 65 years over charges related to market manipulation of a security in the CEL token and wire fraud. Along with his prison sentence, Cohen-Paven will be required to make a restitution in an amount to be specified by the court. This will be determined probably during his sentencing, which his sentencing is set for December 11th, 2024, before U.S. District Judge John Cotell in Manhattan. He will continue to be on bail until that time, so he'll run free for about a year. The SEC accuses Binance US of numerous discovery failures in court filing. In a court filing dated September 14th, the US SEC alleged that Binance US's holding company BAM has so far produced only 220 documents during the discovery process, which includes unintelligible screenshots and documents without dates or signatures, so a lot of stuff that might just be manufactured. In the court filing published yesterday, the SEC raised concerns about customer assets falling under the control of Shafu, a wallet custody service provider owned by the exchange's international entity Binance Holdings Ltd. According to a previous agreement, the assets were supposed to be solely in BAM's custody and complete control in the United States and not shared with other Binance entities. But this doesn't seem to be the case. The SEC argued that Shafu appeared to have control of customer assets through their role in the establishment of wallets and keys shared related to BAM customer crypto assets, as well as their control of the Amazon Web Service environment that hosted this software. And they also stored the keys for both BAM and customer assets. So they held keys for both companies and they were supposed to be separate. This pretty much shows they weren't, and a lot of the stuff was not FUD. Over on the total, we are pumping to the top of this previous support resistance area. This is going to be our important spot. If you remember, I said there was a possibility we could try to move forward on like Bitcoin toward our patterns. That's going to be the same for all our patterns, including this one. So, if we meet some resistance here and get red candles from here, this is likely where we could pull back. We're going to go on the daily though. That way you don't see quite as much of that mess, and it's a little easier to see. So we did kind of wick toward this area, which was the bottom of that triangle, but we would now expect a range somewhere in here. So we may want to kind of drag this up a little. Our stochastic is running up, RSI is coming up, the VWAP's coming up, and the money flow is coming up still, so we do still have a little bit of bullish momentum going on, even though we have a bearish trend overall still. As that VWAP is pushing forward, the VWAP is our medium term, the red in the money flow is your overall trend. So this is your micro, this is your macro. Think of it that way. Over on Bitcoin future, or Bitcoin dominance, getting ahead of myself here. We are starting with sort of a tweezer tops that could form. So if we get a little bit of a pullback or even drop right here and fill right here, we could see a red candle form tomorrow that could retest the support. If we break this support either tomorrow or the day after, it would be likely we could see continual price action down. However, if we get a bounce off, that would be good for us, and that would be a retest of that support line. The stochastic is coming out, the RSI is starting to curl out, the momentum is starting to push away, the VWAP is pushing down pretty aggressively, so it's about to flip into the bearish territory. If that happens on the daily, that could break us down pretty bad. The money flow, it was in the bullish territory, and it's starting to break into the bearish territory already. So if we get another red candle tomorrow, it'll likely continue down, and we'll drag ourselves into more bearish territories and see lower price action. Over on Bitcoin futures, we are starting to kind of pull away from this area I believe I warned about us pulling into this area and possibly starting to pull away when we were like back here. Our stochastic is starting to curl off, so like 2 days ago, RSI is starting to come down. Our VWAP is starting to roll away. The money flow is in a bearish trend. So our medium term is getting exhausted, about to come down, and our overall trend is bearish. Our momentum is trying to come up. It is close to that neutral, but if the VWAP loses strength here, that momentum is going to lose strength. Over on Bitcoin, we'll zoom in a little bit, get a little bit better of a picture of this little trend. Our stochastic starting to round off, the RSI is coming up, the VWAP is starting to roll away, the money flow is overall trending up, and the momentum is in the bullish territory, but is in jeopardy of coming down as our VWAP is starting to lose some strength. We are making a pretty decent push away from this pattern, so we could have a breakout, but just be wary. I did warn you we could just see a manipulation pull into this golden pocket zone, at which point that could pull us toward the bottom of this pattern for a retest. If we retest that pattern and start to reject away, we would ultimately see lower price action from that point, or if we reject away from the golden pocket. So keep those things in mind and just be wary for those scenarios. Over on the 4 hour, we are trying to push pretty decent. We did come back down pretty sharply, but we made a pretty decent bounce as this was a downwards channel, and downwards channels break you up. Our RSI is coming up, our stochastic wants to push up, the momentum is coming up with a green dot as our VWAP is breaking into the bullish territory, so that is good for us. If it can continue with strength, we'll see continual price action up into this golden pocket zone. Our money flow is kind of wavering, it's not really going anywhere either direction, so I would just watch for it to kind of tip to the bearish side. If it falls to the bearish side and the VWAP breaks down, we're likely going to get a leg down from here. But if they can maintain their strength and continue on the lower time frames, we will see that continued price action up. Over on the 2 hour, our RSI is heading up, stochastic is trying to run up here. Our money flow is pushing up slightly, it's in a slight bull trend, nothing too strong. Our VWAP is pushing up, so we do overall have bullish strength here. Our momentum is coming up. It looked like it wanted to kind of roll over here though. If you kind of zoom in, it's starting to pull away. So if it does continue to roll over, our VWAP is likely going to start to roll over from here with it. Over on the 1 hour, we are coming back down toward our previous higher zone area, so if we break down through this, we will probably see continued price action down and a break of this support. We have a reversal arrow with a green dot. Usually when I see them like this, I've seen them break down more often than they break up, but again we have that manipulation zone. Our RSI is starting to kind of round off here, even though the stochastic has as much strength as it can have, so that's a little odd. Our stochastic looks like it could start to bend here, but as long as it stays strong, our RSI should be able to pull back up. Our VWAP is starting to come down, and the money flow is overall coming down. We're getting lower money flow, even though price is going up. So that shows that people are selling more than they're buying, even though we're trying to trend up. Our momentum is coming up, but with the VWAP starting to roll over, that could be in jeopardy, so I would watch the next few candles closely. If we come down, touch the support and break, we're likely going to continue down. However, if we touch and bounce, that is where we would see that move to the golden pocket. Over on graph for the daily, we are trying to push within our flag here, so we are trying to break back in like Bitcoin did. Our stochastic is running up, RSI is running up, our VWAP is pushing really strong, and our money flow is trying to break to the bullish side. So if the VWAP can maintain the strength, the money flow may be able to cross bullish. Our momentum is coming up with a double green dot, so overall we do look pretty decent. If we zoom out for our volume profile real quick, let's see, that point control is way up here at about 11.7, so that would be our next support resistance area if we can break away from this flag and get some strong movements up. We are trying to pretty much invalidate it. If we get a rejection from here tomorrow, then this pattern would still be in play. However, if we see this pattern break, then like over the next day or two, then we would want to delete it and start all over again. Another pattern we could be in is a bit of a downtrend. So looking real quick. Like here. Out there. Could be forming a down channel. Make those a different color real quick so they're easier, if it'll select the right thing, so they're easier to see. Probably not the easiest blue to see. But this down channel could end up being a bullish pattern, and if we break through, we would see continued price action up. Our VWAP is pushing up, our stochastic's pushing up, the RSI is pushing up, so we do have some strength here. So we could see continued price action up. Over on the 4-hour, our stochastic is pretty maxed out. Our RSI is starting to curl off, our momentum's starting to curl off, and our VWAP is overall getting lower highs, but we do still have bullish strength. That is good for us, but the money flow isn't quite getting over that neutral, and it does look like it could start to pull back here. If the money flow pulls back here, we will likely see the VWAP pull back with it, and we could see another leg down from here. That would be dependent on if we broke the bottom of our kind of channel that we are forming. Over on the 2-hour, nothing too great here as far as candles. Stochastic is starting to push down. Our momentum is starting to push down. The RSI is pushing up. So the RSI is going up pretty strong, but the stochastic looks like it could start to weaken. So our RSI may start to dip from this point. The VWAP is starting to dip away, and it is getting close to that neutral, so if it breaks bearish, we'll likely test the bottom of this pattern, at which point, if we break it, we'll see continued price action down. Our money flow is trying to push that neutral. It wants to flip to the bullish side. We'll have to see if it can get a little bit of bullish momentum, see the VWAP cool down and then come back up. If the money flow maintains and the VWAP manages to get some bullish strength, then we would break away from this pattern and see some higher price points like I mentioned. Over on the 1-hour, our stochastic is starting to roll away. We have a double red dot on our momentum, so that does want to bring us down. The RSI is overall heading up, but it's kind of meeting some support resistance in this 82. Our VWAP is pushing that neutral. It's not quite pushing bearish very strong. So even though we have the red dot on the momentum, if the VWAP manages to curl back up rather quick, that could start a bit of a bull trend, and we could see the VWAP push higher and break us even further up. The money flow is getting a little bit of a bounce off this neutral, but is starting to curl off alright, so I would watch out as it's meeting resistance at the 6th zone. If it breaks away from this zone, we're likely going to see a lower low, and that could start a bearish trend to break us down. Over on Anchor for the daily, we're kind of sloppy as far as any kind of pattern. We are overall pushing down. We're trying to break back into our previous pattern, much like graph. Our stochastic is pushing up, it is starting to roll away. Our RSI looks like it could start to roll away, and our VWAP is starting to roll away as well, so I would keep an eye on these indicators. Our money flow was trying to push toward that neutral, but it's starting to flatten out, so if the lower time frames stay weak, we will see continued price action down, as this could be a top and we could get another low, continuing our bear trend here, which could give price action another low, and that could form a down channel like graph and break us up like graph. Over on the 4-hour, we are trying to push into this pattern. We'll have to see if we can confirm and push higher or not and test this resistance around this 2 cent zone. So not too much of a break as far as dollar value. Stochastic's trying to run up, RSI is trying to come up, the momentum's trying to push up with a green dot. The VWAP is trying to make a push to the bullish side, and the money flow is getting a little bit of a bounce off the neutral, but it looks like it's starting to struggle here. So if it starts to push down through the neutral, we will likely see lower price actions. We'd want to look to the lower time frames to determine if that will happen. Over on the 2 hour, you can see we had that triangle that we did mention. This is pretty much that breakout, so if you took that possibility, good on you. Our momentum's overall getting lower highs, even though price is continuing up. So while we have this up channel, that's not a good thing. Our momentum's getting lower highs, we have an up channel, and we have a gap to the downside. So 3 things that want to pull us down. Our VWAP is starting to roll over, our money flow is trying to push through the neutral, our stochastic is running up pretty decently, and our RSI is trying to continue with strength. So if we can continue here, we could see higher price action. We are filling that other secondary gap that I did mention the other day as well, but I believe we don't have any other gaps. Yeah, we don't have any other gaps to fill. So that leaves us with no more upside to fill as far as gaps. We filled all of them. Like I told you, they fill 80% of the time. Sometimes not right away, but this is a case that shows it can fill later. So watch out for that futures gap. Maybe on the 1 hour, we'll take a quick look real quick. On the 1 hour, you tend to get a little bit more gaps on the 2 hour just because it's a lower time frame. I wouldn't trade anything really lower. I wouldn't really trade on the 1 or 2 hour. We do have a gap at 2353, but it would take Bitcoin starting to blast off for us to push that far. That's quite a ways away from us right now. Where are we? Over on the 1 hour, we are starting to push away. So we could have a rounding top. We have a gap below us here at 1870 that we could fill. That could start to bring us down as we have that other lower gap right around this 1729 zone. So this gap could bring us down, start a bearish trend, and then we could see continued price action lower. I've been warning of that a few days. Stochastic's starting to push down. Our RSI is starting to come down. The momentum is starting to get a little toppy here. Our VWAP's starting to come down. And the money flow is in a bit of a high spot, right about 10. It's gone here twice, rejected, and pulled back. So if we don't get a green candle soon, tell us forward with strong money flow, then we're likely going to lose our price points here and see lower price action. Over on the XRP for the daily, we are rejecting our point control on our volume profile, so we could see lower price action from here if we don't break through it in the next day or two. Our stochastic is kind of rounding off. VWAP's trying to push up. The money flow is trying to trend up. The momentum's coming up with a double green dot. So we do have some decent indicators here, but they're not too indicative of a strong move up yet. We would want to see these lower time frames get a little stronger and break this resistance, at which point then we can test these other support resistance zones. 50 cent is pretty huge for XRP. Yeah, most of you know that's a major resistance for us, but for those of you that might be new, it's been a pretty big sticking point ever since before the lawsuit, and we've kind of fallen back toward it. Our stochastic's overall rounding out. We do have a bullish cross here. Our momentum is starting to come down. We do have a green dot though that wants to save us. That VWAP's trying to break into the bullish territory and push us forward. So that is hopeful for us. If that can continue on our lower time frames, we would see continual price action up. Money flow is in the bullish territory, slightly heading up, so that is good for us. But I would be a little weary as it's not really strong yet. Over on the 2 hour, we have a potential for a double top to form here if we start to drop down from here and break below this 49 cent zone. If that happens, watch out, as that would probably break us down to around the 48 cent zone. Not real big price movements for us, but that could start a downtrend. Our RSI is starting to come down. The momentum's overall tapering out. The stochastic wants to run up. The VWAP is kind of going flat here. The money flow is trying to push higher. So the money flow is trying to get some strength, but it looks like the VWAP, the medium term, could start to lose strength. so that could pull out our money flow. I would keep an eye on that. Over on the 1 hour, our stochastic's starting to curl down, RSI is starting to fall down, so we do have some bit of a bearish pull here. Our momentum is starting to curl away. The money flow is starting to curl away. The VWAP is starting to come down. So overall, we could break this neutral. I would keep an eye on the next few candles. If we form that double top, that could be dangerous for us. I don't think we have any gaps like anchor to fill, but we do still have that potential to drop into this lower zone, which could start a break to our pattern, which would break us to that like 38-cent zone, which is the, I don't know if I can get it, but that's the point control of our bigger channel. See, right around our point control, it's dropped down a little bit. So over on Algo for the daily, last but not least for tonight, we will do the meme coins tomorrow. I'm thinking of doing them like twice a week on constant days. So for those of you that do the meme coins, drop which days you would like to see them, and we can start making that happen. Also, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'd like to see you in that Discord. But our stochastic wants to run up, RSI is trying to come up, the money flow is trying to push that neutral, the VWAP's trying to push up, and the momentum's trying to come up. So we do have some possibilities for continued bullish strength here. But we also have that downwards channel forming. So that downwards channel can help push us forward as well. That is a bullish pattern. So we have a couple things going for us. It'll be real important if the money flow can break bullish. If the money flow kind of stops here, we'll probably see another drop down. At which point, if we don't see strong bullish action in the market, we could break that pattern. Or if we start to get some like bear sentiment, we could see a lift off and break through those patterns. Not sure what kind of news would cause that, but we'll have to see when the time comes. Our stochastic is trying to push up, RSI is trying to come up, the momentum's trying to come up, our VWAP is trying to push into the bullish territory, our money flow is trying to start a bullish trend. So overall, the 4 hour does look pretty decent. If the lower time frames can continue with this trend, we could see continual price action up. We do have a bit of an uptrend here though, so I would watch out, as this uptrend could break us down, as uptrends are the opposite of that downtrend and they're a bearish pattern. Our RSI is trying to head up, our stochastic's trying to head up, the momentum's overall kind of heading out. We could end up forming a bit of bearish divergence. Not sure why one hasn't highlighted. Our VWAP is pushing up, the money flow is trying to push up, so we are trying to get some pushes to the bullish side. We'll have to see if this can maintain. If the 1 hour starts to taper off, then we'll likely see the 2 hours start to weaken, and then it'll drag into the other time frames. Over on the 1 hour, the stochastic's starting to get a bit of a bend. It does want to break to the bearish side, so we will possibly get a retest of the support zone since we broke into our pattern again, and we did move pretty decently inside of it. Our RSI is starting to come down, our momentum's starting to come down, and the money flow is starting to come out. The VWAP's overall in a bearish trend as well, so I would watch out over the next few hours. We may have overextended ourselves finally, and this is where we could see all these retests start to break. If we start to get some bullish pushes up and we get into the golden pocket on Bitcoin, then we could see some continued price action up most likely. Thank you for watching tonight's video. I hope you have a wonderful night.